lowering the barriers. In our policy framework, in any of the government policy, but my limited experience of 15-16 years in government service is that we develop policy with a very good intent, but sometimes we forgot to remove the barriers for entry. If my child wants to take admission in one of the specialized school, he or she has to take admission in one of the assessment center, which itself create a waiting period of 2.5 years. If I want to go in a standard Delhi NIPSIP kind of assessment center where I want to check the spectrum of my child to get admission into a the goal was to get an admission in a good school where inclusive setup is there, but barrier is to get an assessment first, and to get that assessment there is a waiting period of 2.5 years. So how can we lower that barrier? I think that is the main aspect, and we remove all those barriers for MSMEs in our program. We remove all those barriers. There were some security criteria, there were some safety criteria, but we relaxed everything just to get into our policy. So let us try for that, and then we simplify the process. How we simplify that process? In our policy, in that framework which I am describing, there were lots of security, safety, procedural, transportation criteria. Lots of processes were there. We combined those 11 documents into 3 documents for MSME. Similar process simplification we want in our inclusive education. Don't make it complicated. Their brain works in a single direction, but very strongly, very confidently. If we are making those processes very complicated, we are spoiling all the efforts that we are trying to make it. Next slide, please. So, when we say that we are hand-holding, we just want to walk with them, not ahead, with every learner. Because just I mentioned that they don't need the correction first. They need the connection first. And don't give them a label. This is a father's perspective. I was saying that let's discuss a father perspective also. As a parent, when we go to a shop, oh, this is the child. So I don't know, you understand that word bechara, bechari. This is a difficult word for a parent to learn, listen every time. So listen them before labeling. My request to the teacher is before labeling, just listen them and be the voice. We are not alone. When we say that we are with you, they will appreciate that. Yes, somebody is with me. I know there are sometimes there are burnout, there are went out, but at least tell them you are not alone, and we create the classroom into the safe spaces. Maybe we can share all these PPT to everybody. I don't mind. So people are busy taking clicks. Maybe you have the email ID or number, you can share. Next slide. Reaching every child and every parent. So in this journey, I usually say that I am a special parent. In the introduction also, I try to emphasize on that. Special child is a phrase that has been well established. Special educator is also established. Now it is time to expand that definition, and let us do one thing. We are special parents because somebody has entrusted us to bless the child to us. So we are special. So in this context, my request to the teachers will be, let us understand the process and the skills that the parents need to acquire to handhold each child. Let us understand the parent, because when we say inclusive education, it doesn't start or end with the child. let us include everyone around the child. When you hear the perspective of a parent, then you will have a better understanding of the child also. So create peer circles among the teachers to share the ideas. What are the ideas, different ideas, how we can use the technology also in mentoring each and everything that goes around. And I am a strong believer that every family deserves to be feel supported, not to be isolated. Because being a teacher is the best thing in the world. You have a special ability to understand each and everything. You are born with a purpose, and let us follow that purpose. How you can help that child supporting their family. So just check out some of your time in your helping attitude of the child to the parent itself. So in Sanskriti we do that. When we include family, we multiply the whole. I focus that this health framework is transforming into a hope, and that hope is to grow. So ultimately, next slide. So early help, note the late labels. So again, this is very important, and we need to work in some kind of policy document that how without a formal diagnosis we can offer the support. That is very important from policy perspective. There is a dialogue in a very famous comedy movie मुन्ना भाई MBBS कि अगर कोई हार्ट है या कुछ है तो उसको फॉर्म भरना जरूरी है क्या? No? So that is the point that we want to create. If a child is suffering from some kind of disability, क्या उसको सबसे पहले वो assessment कराना जरूरी है क्या? Or we can take that support. Let's wait and see. Instead of wait and see, let us act and support. Let us include those. Every early step prevents a lifelong struggle, and there should be no process between the child and care. Yeah. And make compassion easy. Maybe that is the second last slide that we are going to discuss. We report and communication, simplify that. We peer circles from teachers, and when systems are light in women, then there is a compassion that will flow. Yeah. So, finally, what is help in our system? Hand-holding, which will bring comfort, expanding benefits through inclusion, lowering the barrier, bring the access to the families, and process simplification, which will bring peace in the mind of the child, the family, the teacher, the community, and the society as a whole. Because policy opens the door, but the teachers hold hands and walk children through them. And thank you for being the hope in every child's story. Thank you so much. A big clap for the teachers.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pradeep Kumar. Excellent, very simple, but food for thought. Maybe based on this framework, you can think in a different way. Find out how we can incorporate parents in the inclusive process. And that is the important for us. So I would like to say one quote this one. I have a lot of them when I was young. A father having a child down syndrome said that I never allow the problem to dominate me. I walk with the problem. And that is an example of you. That is to you. This is very important. How? So it is not only for the parents, but teachers also. Accept the problem and walk with them. That it would not be difficult or impossible. possible or put up. So that was the lesson from me. Another what I would like to say, my personal opinion. I'm sorry if I hurt you. I don't like the word special child, child with disability. Why we are using this label? If you see the film Munna by MBBS, वो patient, और patient को नाम नहीं है क्या? So then also we can say that this is my daughter, Khatam. We don't need to tell. People will recognize. However, if you ask about what kind of disability she has, then we can answer that all. But every time you don't need to say that, sorry, this is my personal opinion and patient family, patient child will come over. Because the point is that when he mentioned very clearly about that, when he mentioned how he become excluded or other family, when they come to know that the child has a disability, journey start and now the family empower themselves. And that is important. So now in this process, you should not let the patient child or patient family. At the beginning, I can understand, but now you can tell, empower family. Why not? So see, if you are confident in that, people will accept. If you become more defensive, people will accept. And therefore, sorry, we can't change the society mindset, but we can show through our action. One again it is the eye-opener. And I am really happy to be part of your lecture. Any question, please? Any question to all of you? Yeah?
Sir, how do we be part of this? How can we be part of this health framework?
So that's a wonderful question, and first let me respond to ma'ams, because whenever you are presenting anything before teachers, so definitely you will get something. So that's the first idea. I was trying what proofs I can make in my presentation so that my professor may scold me like anything. So coming back to your point, is how can we be part of a framework? So point is, as Meg said, that in health today's focus was on to emphasize the focus on what are the different criteria. What we are doing, everything is all existing is in help only. Whenever we work with a dedicated function, dedicated program or dedicated framework, it gives us energy and it focuses on not only the process but on the outcome. So we say that sometimes it is the journey which is more valuable, but every journey should be equipped with some kind of outcome. So in the policy document that we want to create for inclusive education, we want to give a focus on health framework, how everybody, like a teacher, like a parent. Let me tell you from a parent perspective first of all. So in my mind, there is a help. What is help? I have to handhold. If I am the head of family or I am the main person who wants to focus on health framework, then whom do I have to have handhold? My child with special needs, her sibling, that is to be handled. Sometimes we forgot. We focus on one child, but we forgot to handhold the other. Why? Because we want to develop the whole family ecosystem in such a way that support her, but we need to handhold everyone. Now, let us see E, expanding the benefits. Again, how do we expand the benefits? Should we focus only on one child or we expand the benefits to other? Because he or she always is in an interaction with that child. Now, how do we process lowering the barrier? Again, focus on all those criteria. This will be varying from case to case basis. And in the policy documents with a larger perspective, we want government attention to work on framework because it is time tested and now globally recognized also. I'll share the statistics with some of the organizers also. So how do we lower the barrier in a household phenomenon? How do we lower the barrier? I always focus as assessment can be done in parallel. Let us start care of that child. Let us start. Don't wait because not everybody is so empowered that will get the assessment in quick time. So I have seen those cases where the children are not able to attend the school because of pending assessments. So that is the barrier. And how do we simplify the process with the use of technology? We can simplify those processes. These days, this UDID and everything is helping, connecting with Aadhaar and everything. We can simplify the process. In a school setup, if you as a teacher will start, how do you handhold? How will you expand the benefits? To expand the benefits with other teachers, other peer groups, circles, create circles, lowering the barriers. So whenever there is a meeting, whenever there is a function, how you can lower the barrier to make them able so that they can showcase their talent in a normal landscape. That is how you lower the barrier. You talk to the theatre guy, you took on the stage, every player can start with those. So that will create the benefits. And this is how this process will happen.
One more question? Yeah.
Morning, sir. What I want to know is, as a parent, will you be able to connect with other parents and your child with low vision, I guess? Yeah. So there are children with autism, there are children with ID, neurodevelopmental disabilities, basically. Parents are in a denial mode. How do you connect with them if you manage to do that?
Wonderful question, I must say. So, when parents are in denial mode, what may be the cause? What may be the cause for that denial? One, I started my presentation with that, trust. Trust between two parents. Trust between parents and teacher. Trust between parent and school. Trust between parents and the community. That's the idea. If you want to include those parents, since last 7 years, we are having a community in Sanskriti school network, community support group. We have named it as Learning Center Support Group. So whenever there is, I am not saying that we are available for that support group 24/7, but we identify and we weight them what is the need and how this support group can work. So there for a different community there may be a separate objective, separate, some may be having on financial obligations, some may be having emotional support need group. So you need to identify what kind of community, what kind of what kind of support group you want to be in. If you are a teacher, then your half work is already done. Because we as a parent trust teachers. Our main philosophy starts from trust, and when we find that there is something happening which is not in a good pace, then we start decreasing the trust. I always give my marriage example. My wife is there. So when we marry each other, we start building trust, and it goes like this. But with teacher, we start from this side, and then we start decreasing if things are not in good pace. So if you are saying that parents are in denial mode, let us first hear them. When I say inclusion, so not inclusion means with the student, with the child, let us improve those factors. What is happening sometimes, and thank you for your patience because I'm just jotting down my ideas in one point. Whenever anybody is in denial mode, like in big conferences also, when I was talking to MSME units, so they were at very, what I will say, I was talking good things about my policy, this will do that, and one fine person and say, what is in your policy? How we can affect in my trade, my business? It's really set back. Wow, this is another perspective. But when we see slowly, he attended one conference, then we specifically invite him to other. And one aspect is user story. There are 5 parents. 4 are in denial, but maybe one is supporting you and your cause, or maybe one may be supporting to some extent. Let us invite that parent to the dice. When he shared the success, yes, I trusted my teacher and I worked in that way, that user story will affect other users more than you explain them anything. Yes, please. You are having a point.
Now the time, Doctor. Sorry. All of you came late. Actually, we are responsible for that. We are on time, no?
Yes. I was rather before time.
We
I
are
excited.
We are punctual.
I came here at 8:45.
I'm sorry. So now, if you want to get me in personal
Yes.
data, take it number, I'm really sorry because it affects the next program. Okay. So once again, thank to all of you and thank to Dr. Pratibha. I'm very grateful to the she's my best friend. What is your name?
My name is Jika.
How come it's you?
I am studying secondary school. मैं 11th क्लास में पढ़ती हूँ। मेरे स्कूल में बहुत सारे टीचर हैं, वो मुझे अच्छे बारे में बहुत कुछ सिखाते हैं और मैं आपको एक कुछ सुनाना चाहती हूँ।
अब गया
So it shows that nothing is impossible.
मैं अपने फ्रेंड्स में मैं अपने फ्रेंड के साथ खेलती हूँ स्कूल में और मेरे बहुत सारे फ्रेंड्स हैं और बहुत सारे टीचर्स हैं। मैं टीचर्स की बहुत हेल्प करती हूँ और मैं अपने फ्रेंड के साथ बहुत कुछ खेलती हूँ। थैंक यू।
Okay, I will wait for now. Once again, thank, and maybe anybody can contact. If you could not, you know, Chachit Kapoor number, they will connect with you. Okay? Thank you very much. Okay, now the next session. The next session is that leadership. And it is my pleasure to introduce Professor Shrilata Chua, School of Social Work, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, and she is an expert in the training, and then she will give, I think it has a 1.5 hours. And now all of tea is over, so no break in between. I would invite Shrilata to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandhya. Good morning, everybody, and a special good morning to people who have come today. So, my task is to source the leadership within you and me. Okay? So, the assumption that we have in this room is that you and I have the ability to be a leader. So, in this work is borrowed from the book called Radical Transformational Leadership. This is written by Dr. Monica Sharma, who is an epidemiologist and a public health expert and a physician. And she did most of this work. एक बार आप कुछ मत करो। नहीं करूँगा। वो चलेगा आप मुझे छोड़ दीजिए मैं करूँ। Thank you. No problem. But thank you so much. मैंने ये कर दिया। because this will take me time. I don't want to be bound by the slides. We can quickly run through them later. So this work is based on, this work is based on 4-5 principles. The first principle is that I learn when I inquire. Inquire is to look within, ask questions. So the key is to engage in generative conversations. So I learn when I inquire, pretty much like the teachers here are doing, particularly with children. I learn when I inquire. I learn when I am able to engage with others. So much of this is based on peer learning. I will not teach you what you don't know. What you have is what I will only awaken what you know. It is also based on insight, generating insight. So while 1 hour or 1.5 hours is very limited for us to do that kind of intense work, we will see what we can do, and I'm hoping that we will learn at least 2 tools or 3 tools by the end of this skills that we can take forward for in our journey later, and I will tell you more about this as we go along. So in this course, leadership is defined in 2 ways. Leadership is knowing who I am, and knowing who I am is the essence within me, the root of my being. So knowing who I am as the root of my being, the essence of my being, it is designing differently. Albert Einstein says, when you want to solve problems at one level, you cannot solve problems at the same level at which it was created. We need a substantially new manner of thinking if we want to solve problems. So we're talking about designing differently. So it gives us the architecture for design. And the third is to generate results. We're talking about tangible results in the here and now, all of these done simultaneously. Now that is what Dr. Pradeep Kumar spoke about, right? He says, I need to have compassion as one strong pillar, as 2 bookends. One bookend is compassion, the other bookend is the result. So how do I transform policies into practice? So when my policy is designed based on universal values such as compassion, dignity, equity, then I will deliver practices that are also sourcing universal values of compassion, equity and dignity. And when I'm able to do that, then my results will also manifest compassion, equity and dignity. No? Why are we using these words, compassion, equity and dignity? Because these are innate attributes which all human beings are born with. Okay? Dignity is self-worth. Okay, what I have is self-worth, and this is what we learn from neuroscience literature. That self-worth and dignity is something that self-worth and self-esteem is vital to all human beings. And Daniel Goleman also gave us this concept of emotional intelligence, which says I need to be aware of myself. So when I'm aware, when I have self-worth, then I'm able to contribute to dignity of all. So what is self-worth at an individual level is dignity at a larger level. Then we come to equity. There was an Oxfam study in mid-2000s that said that all of us have an equity impulse. Okay? And that is why when you give children an unequal number of toffees, they're not going to sit quiet and watch you do or quickly put it in their mouth like adults, like I do. Okay? Children tend to say, why has that child got less? Let me share mine with the child. That is what we mean by equity impulse, a sense of fairness. Again, what is fairness at an individual level is equity at a larger level. And compassion is my ability to act, to be in compassion. I'm called to act when I see suffering. I'm not a bystander. I jump onto the field and I act. So that is what is compassion. So these become the core values that you and I stand for. So yesterday some of you did this exercise of what do I deeply care about. Some of you spoke about inclusion, freedom and so on and so forth. All of those are universal values that you stand for yourself and others, that I stand for myself and others. So what applies to me is also applies to others. I cannot give people what I don't have. That is psychology 101. I admire in others is also there within me, right? So, when we talk about innate attributes, these are the innate attributes that you and I have. So I'm going to take the liberty of making this a little workshop more. And I'm going to have a very quick, we'll have to complete this in about 10-15 minutes. So I'm going to ask you a few questions and you're going to write an answer and share in your team, okay? Identify a person you admire very much. Not someone who's close to you, not from your family, not your teacher who is currently teaching. Please admire your teachers and your students, no problem. But they're not someone who are currently working with you. Okay? Also, this person can also be a cartoon character, a fictional character, and so on. Like someone would say, I like Betal. Okay, no problem. I like Casper the Ghost, no problem. Okay. So it can be someone who you admire. It has to be someone you admire, but not someone close to you. You may have met, you may not have met. I admire Baba Amte, but I have not met Baba Amte. Okay. So please admire and write down the name of that person. Very quickly, you just need a minute to write the name. Alright, does anyone need more time? Okay, can you please share in your groups, and this is how you're going to share, okay? This quality that you've written, well, can you tell me in this table what qualities you've written? Quality.
Compassion, calmness of the
self-love. So, let's say when they introduce themselves, they're going to say, my name is, I stand for. Why do we say my name is and not I am? The name I'm given is one part of my identity. The essence of who I am is compassion, is self-love, is, calmness. Okay, that's the value. So wherever you go, let's say you're not teachers anymore, you're asked to go and work in the forest with wildlife, you will carry the same quality with you. Alright, so that is what we mean by saying, so we introduce ourselves saying, my name is and I stand for. Can you do that please in your respective tables? You have about 5 minutes to do that. Like I will say, my name is Srilata, I stand for dignity, fairness and full protection for myself and others.
Nobody's speaking now. Put it off.
We have attention, please. So now that we have shared what we stand for, this is my innate capacity and your innate capacity. It's called different names by different. It can be called by different names. It's called universal values. It's called innate capacities. It's called inner power. You can call it any name by which you think is comfortable. However, this is a nameless, wordless space. It's an energetic space. Okay? This also has a quality of being unmessable with, not don't mess with me, but unmessable with quality. That means, even though life puts me down, I can come bouncing back right up. Okay? Pretty much like the bamboo tree. Sorry, bamboo plant. Pretty much like the bamboo. When the wind blows, the bamboo goes down, and then when the wind starts blowing hard, the bamboo comes right back up. It's pretty much that kind of a quality. Or what we call the bozo doll, or the hit me doll. No? When you hit, the doll goes down. When you take off the pressure, it comes right back up. It's pretty much the same. In the south, we call this the danjo doll. Okay? Where you push it, the chettiarama, you push it, it goes down and then it comes right back up because of the flat bottom base. Alright? So, this quality of anchoring myself in my universal value enables me to center myself, as someone said, be calm within myself at all times. And this is the place of greatest potential, because when I access this space, I can do whatever I do much better. Just like you and I have universal values, we also have fears. The fears that I'm referring to here are not fears of real-time fears of molestation, assault, fear or phobias of darkness, snakes, etc. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about socialized fears. You know, if we actually dwell into this, we can identify when our fears began. And by and large, across the world, there are about 6-7 fears that all human beings carry. Okay? I have a fear of making mistakes. Not that I stopped making mistakes, I still make mistakes. I have a fear of making mistakes, but the good news is I can conquer my fears. So fear has two parts. One is the good news, which I told you. The bad news is the fear is my default. It's going to stay the way it is. Okay? A lot of times, this comes into play during our work situations. Okay? I tend to operate more from fears than from my universal values. Okay? But the good news is, even though it's a default like our computer screen or a phone screen, I can manage my fears. How do I manage my fears? 3 simple steps, or rather 4 simple steps. Notice my fears. My body is a good indicator of fears. So for me, what happens is, I have tightness of my forehead muscles. My heart goes pounding, not in that love pounding, but you know the fear pounding, okay? And then I sometimes have dryness of throat, dryness of mouth. I may have shortness of breath. So my body is a good indicator of fear. Can I notice and pay attention to my body? And can I pay attention to the signals my body is giving me? So when I notice, then I name my fear. So we are all okay. Let's do a group exercise here. Okay? How many of us have fear of making mistakes? Please raise your hand. Yeah? Good, thank God. How many of us have fear of making mistakes? Because these are all socialized fears, okay? How many of us have fears of failure? Yeah. Notice I have a fear of making mistakes, but I don't have a fear of failure, which means the fear of failure does not trigger me. Fear of making mistakes trigger me. Okay? How many of us have a fear of rejection? Fear of being rejected. How many of us have fear of not good enough? I'm not good enough. We tell ourselves this. Right. How many of us have fear of bullying and ridicule? Ridicule, not bullying. Fear of ridicule. Okay. How many of us have fear of judgment? That people will judge me. the law, we are not about real-time loss of people because that's a reality. People will leave us and go. Okay. So I talk about loss of face, loss of expectations not being met, loss of loved ones in terms of people leave me and go away, not by death but by other means. What else is there? Okay. So these are all common types of fears that we see in our lives. So every time when I want to do something, either I act from my fears or I act from my universal values. I have a choice. How do I deal with my fears? I notice my fears. I name my fears. What we did just now was naming fears. And I release my fears. How do I release my fears? While I shift my attention from my fears to, I anchor myself in my inner capacity and let it go. So let me give you a simple example. Okay. So in the morning when I came, I thought, the worksheet that I wanted to use for today was not printed. So I had this fear, that's a big mistake I made, I should not do this, I should not have counted on so and so, this is not okay. So my mind went racing faster than I could manage. And then I told myself, what do I stand for? I asked myself, what do I stand for? I could see my forehead tightening, I could see, emotions well up. I could sense all of that. My body indicated to me. I picked that up and then I asked myself, Srilata, you are full potential. You will manage without it. No problem. So I shifted from fear to telling myself that I can let go of my fear and use what I have in order to do this session. Okay. Now, so all of us have the capacity to manage our fears. The good news is that I can manage my fears. Please remember, courage is not the absence of fear, but my ability to act in spite of fear. So I do have fears, but I can act in spite of that fear, and that's what courage is. Alright? What I give attention to grows. If I'm going to give attention to my fears grow. But if I give attention to my universal values grow. So I have a choice. Whether I want to give attention to my fears, when my fears are strong, my universal values are weak. But when I shift my attention from fears to universal values and my universal values become strong, my fears become weak. So I have a choice to be in action whenever there is fear. Why? Because courage is not the ability to act, but the ability to act. Courage is the ability to act in spite of fear. It's not the absence of fear, but the ability to act in spite of fear. Right? So I'm going to quickly take us through this. So this is what I said. I become self-aware by knowing who I am, what I think and what I do. And I know how to source my inner capacity for strategic action, particularly in my work as a teacher. I'm not going to go to this slide because it's a little too long. We've done this. So this is what is being unmessable with. Okay? When I source my universal values, I am unmessable with. Inner capacities and universal values are our real strength. Domination, bullying and ridicule are actually a sign of inner weakness. No one can take away my inner capacity from me. Pretty much like no one can take away the quality of the bamboo from it. Okay. Obstacles put us down, but we always bounce back. So we looked at this. So we spoke about socialized fears. We said we are not talking about real-time fears such as assault, molestation or bullying, or also about phobias. We are talking about fears that you and I are socialized into. Strong people know their fears and they know how to transcend their fears. We did some 3 simple steps, right? For fears. We said notice, name, let go of my fears and be in action sourced from universal values. Right? So this is what I said. When my fears are strong, the universal values are weak. I have a choice to shift action from universal values. And when I work with others, it's important for me to source the other person's universal values for action. Why? Because we all work together. We work together, but I do my own work, and that's why it's important for us to be aligned with regard to universal values. So this is a quote that is a very favorite quote of mine. It says, when you know who you are, when your mission is clear, and you burn with the inner fire of unbreakable will, no cold can touch your heart, no deluge can dampen your purpose. This was said by Chief Seattle of the Squamish Indians of Washington State, and that's why the city of Seattle was named after him. Now this is what drives you and me. So yesterday we spoke about passion of work, right? This is our driving force. We looked at this topic because we need to know what is it that's driving you and me in the work that we do, and how you and I can nurture it and keep it alive at all times. Okay? So having done this, I will go to the next topic, which is so we talk about our identities, right? So our identities are our assets for humanity. So that's how we refer to identities, as an asset for humanity. Okay? So how do I look at different parts of myself and embrace them? Because that is how we embrace diversity. Okay? So the first identity that you and I can talk about are inner potential or inner capacity or wisdom profile. So I'm going to request you to read this aloud. Then they will pick it up very quickly.
My four profiles: inner potential or inner capacity, that is wisdom profile. The inner values, example, dignity, compassion, equity, and inner capacity that sees things as they really are, helps release grip of fear, anger, and anxiety, and leads one to compassionate action in the world.
So this is what we just saw in our tables, what you and I stand for. Whether it's calmness, whether it's compassion, whether it is courage. So those are the values that we just shared in our table, right? So this is a driving force for us in our lives. Now let's look at the social profile. Can you read the social profile?
Social profile, the assumptions and conditioning that influence our perception of who we are and what the world is, received from our family, religion, education, media, culture. And these assumptions and conditioning influence our perceptions of ourselves and others related to race, gender, caste, tribe, politics, nationality, etc.
So the social profile is the space where you and I divide and talk about, oh, I am like this, you are like this. I have plenty of examples based on caste, based on gender, based on disability. So let me start with the caste example. Okay? So there was a colleague of mine whose father used to work in a factory. Okay? And he had a young colleague who just got married and went from a girl from the village. And it was the first time this young man was visiting his in-laws' place. So when he got off the bus, he didn't know how to get to the in-laws' place. So he got off the bus and he went into a tea stall. And the tea stall owner, he asked the tea stall owner, this man was, nicely shirt tucked in and all that stuff. So the tea stall owner thought must be from a very good whatever. So the tea stall owner gave him tea and was asking him, where have you come and why have you come here and so on. And as he was responding, his father-in-law came. So So as he saw, the tea stall owner saw the father-in-law and this young man converse, the tea stall owner was so super mad, he got out of his counter and he pushed the glass from the man's hand and said, "Why did you not tell me that you belong to this caste? I wouldn't have served you with this glass." Which means, let me finish. I'll finish this off and then you take it. I'll call you and you introduce it. Okay? So, where was I? Okay, so he got out of his tea store counter and he said, "Why did you not tell me?" So this young man was very surprised and asked what happened. The father-in-law quickly took him away and explained, you know, in this village there are two tumbler systems. We have a glass for the so-called upper caste and a kanchka glass for the so-called Dalit community. What did I say? The steel glass for the steel glass for the Dalit community. So this happens even today. It happens in the financial capital as well as in the national capital. It's not very different anywhere. So that's why I think this was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Not only in villages, it happens even in cities. Okay? So maybe we will request Poonam to come and share. I don't know this, so you only have to come and share. Please come up here. And you'll have to say my name is I stand for.
Yesterday, you know about the news of IPS officers जिसने suicide कर लिया? That for the casteism. Casteism के लिए उसको बहुत ज़्यादा provoke कर रहे थे और 2 लोग उसके लिए शायद पकड़े भी गए. So this is a very good and big example.
I want to also give you an example with regard to disability. So there was this in the neighborhood. Okay, in one neighborhood there were children practicing for children's day programs. Okay, so and this was in this place there were 2 children with disability. Okay, one having a hearing impairment and another child having locomotor disability. So all the children, so one of the parents got together and started organizing a performance by children. And these 2 children were looking longingly thinking that they will be included. But the parent did not include. So the parents of these two children were very upset. So then, as we were having a conversation, I suggested to them, how about actually putting together a performance with just the 2 of them, rather than them getting lost in the crowd. So they did that. And subsequent years, these children got included. So it's possible that all children, so we always separate based on whatever identifiers we have here. Okay? But the truth is, you and I can include everybody. And where is this space of inclusion coming from? My wisdom profile. So what happened? The 2 parents got together and said, we are not going to mock parents who segregated our children or excluded our children, but we want to show them what our children are also capable of doing. Not to put them down, but to say, this is also a possibility. Can we have that kind of compassion and vision to be able to do what we're doing? Simply because that is what was the game changer for this house and society. Okay? So we'll go to the next one, which is personality profiling.
Personality profile, personal style of expression, our particular strengths, limitations, defense mechanisms, the unique way we act, interact, and express our wisdom, fear, anxiety, etc.
We all tend to say, no, she is extroverted, he is introverted. You should not be extroverted, it's bad to be extroverted or introverted. But it's just a style of expression. Neither is right, neither is wrong. And then now we have all these MBTI kind of, classifications. Of course, they're not sound enough, but they become the markers for Right. So, personality is just a style of expression. It doesn't matter whether I'm extroverted or introverted, but then we end up making judgments based on how I am dressed, how my expression is. If I come in a sari, you'll say, oh, this one is very traditional. Like we say in Tamil Nadu, mami types. Okay? Or if you come in, let's say Elizabeth, come up Elizabeth. If you come dressed like Elizabeth, what are we going to say? Oh, she's very modern and hip. Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes. So if you look at Elizabeth and me, you'll say, I'm the good one and she's not. No. We tend to do that. We tend to typecast people like this. But that is not truly who I am. Truly who I am is just a style of expression. I feel confident even to fashion a sari. So I wear a sari. Because I've seen my teachers wear sari. But that doesn't mean that I'm not as hip and modern like Elizabeth is. Right? So that is personality profile.
Professional profile. The way we express our professional talents and abilities in the world. The skills we have for managing, creating and manifesting in a professional way.
So the professional profile is just a skill that we carry. How many of us are, most of us are teachers here, right? All of us are teachers, so please raise your hand. How many of us are architects in this room? Yeah. How many of us are social workers in this room? How many of us are engineers in this room? How many of us are physiotherapists in this room? How many of us are sign language interpreters in this room? Please raise your hand. Thank you. Okay? So we all have different professional skills. What if I said social work is the best profession, all the professions are not important? Am I right? Definitely not. So all professions are important to make up this world. That is why we say, what would happen to the world if we didn't have carpenters and plumbers? Right? And we can't do our own plumbing and carpentry, right? So this is what we need to be mindful of. So based on these four profiles, which profile is the most, which is a profile that can be left out, which is not important according to you? No, profile. Oh, sorry. Which is the profile that can be left out amongst all these four profiles? First one. So it's okay, we can do it without inner capacities. All are important. But which is the profile that we can use to leverage change, to bring about change? The first one. Why? Because our inner potential is for everyone, everywhere, leaving nobody out. It does not exclude anybody. So when you and I want to make a change as teachers, whether it's in our classrooms, whether it's with our school management committee, whether it is with children, whether it is with other staff, whether it's with community, this is what we need to leverage. That is why yesterday we started off with what do I care about for myself, for my children and for the world. Because when I start with that, when I anchor myself in that, the rest then becomes easy. Why? Because I'm letting my I'm bringing my universal values into every task and thought of mine. So, can I notice when I am differentiating between people? Can I notice when I'm moving away from my wisdom profile so that I can come back to my wisdom profile and be inclusive? So that I embrace, so that is the purpose of this exercise, so that I embrace diversity within me and within others. So this is what it is, to understand my four profiles and others' four profiles so that I can embrace all people and respect diversity. Right? So we all know, I am going to be guided by I cannot undo my socialization, but I can manage my socialization. My personality is who I am, but that doesn't have to rule me. I need my professional skills, but the foundational value of who I am is what guides me like an internal moral compass. Okay? So we looked at who I am, okay, which is who I am as the core of my being, as the essence of my being, and we saw how that essence of my being can help me embrace diversity, both within me and outside of me. So now we're going to do another small exercise. Because another definition of leadership is, a leader is someone who listens deeply, speaks powerfully and responsibly, and transforms disempowering conversations. Okay? So this exercise is about listening deeply. Most of you, all of you would have done different types of listening exercises. You must have heard about active listening, you must have heard about, in nonviolent communication we say, listen to what is not being said. We talk about listening for writing, verbatim, all of that we've said, okay? But this is about deep listening. Here what we mean by deep listening is to still the chatter in my head, okay? Which Monica calls as background conversations. So let's see what background conversations are. So she says, as human beings, we constantly have background conversations, whether I'm aware of them or not. Being aware of my background conversations allows me freedom for thought and action. Okay? The chatter in my head. So I have a choice. Am I going to allow the background conversations to drive me, or am I going to notice my background conversations and listen deeply to the other person and be an effective leader? So I'm going to say something, and I'll request you to respond to whatever is going on. The climate in Goa is very, very sultry. But you know what? This climate is better than the Bangalore climate or the Delhi climate. At least you sweat and you get out your toxins. It's not the same in Bangalore or in Delhi. One can feel very stuffy inside. As you heard me say this, what came to your mind? She's right, she's wrong. So you started, as I was talking, you had these thoughts in your head. She's right, she's wrong. Okay? Or I agree or I disagree with her. That's what you thought, some of you? Yeah? Some of you said, what does she know about Goa? She's only come here for 2 days. What does she know about Goa? All the Goans you would have thought so. What is the proof of? You're so kind. What does she know? She doesn't have any proof. And in any case, it's not very different from any other coastal city. What's the big deal that she's making out of it? Right? Oh, that's her problem. No? Why should I be responsible for the way she feels? Or what she says, right? So these are all thoughts that have gone on in your head. Or it's us versus them. Oh, these South Indians. Oh, these North Indians. Right? So you could have thought that way as well. Or either it's too hot or it's too cold. What else can you expect in this country? What is the big deal? Right? She doesn't have enough data to say this. She's sitting in an AC room. She doesn't have enough data or experience to say this. So this is how we filter what we hear as we are hearing it. Nothing wrong with it. But the fact remains that as when I filter what I hear as I'm hearing it, it's bound to cloud my judgment. Okay? So, we're going to do a small exercise. Sorry. Apologies. So we're going to do a small exercise now. You're going to listen to your partner in a very distracted way. Okay? Your partner will think of something that you're proud of, you've done something that you're proud of and you want to share with your partner. The partner who's listening will not listen at all, will listen like you don't care. Okay? So please play in all sincerity, then only you will be able to get the essence of this. Okay? So please begin. Just follow the instructions. Okay, partner change please. The partner who was listening will now speak. So revenge time. Alright. Okay, we can stop play acting now. Alright. How did you feel when your partner did not listen or when you did not listen to your partner? How did you feel? She said irritated. This table? Rejected. Rejected. Offended. That table, how did you feel? Lonely, okay? Dejected, okay? How did you feel when your partner did not listen to you? Or you did not listen to your partner? That table, the last table? Angry, okay? Get it? Rejected. Lonely, I said lonely. Disappointed. Unimportant. Okay. So these are some of the ways. Helpless. So these are some of the ways in which we feel when we don't listen to the other. Now, let's read this quote together. Okay? Listening. Listening is a rare happening among human beings. You cannot listen to the word another is speaking if you are preoccupied with your appearance or with impressing the other, or are trying to decide what you're going to say when the other stops talking, or are debating about whether what is being said is true or relevant or irrelevant. Such matters have their place, but only after listening to the word as the word is being uttered. Listening is a primitive art of love in which a person gives himself to another's word, making himself accessible and vulnerable to that one. Can you also read this?
Listening. Listening is a rare happening among human beings. You cannot listen to the word another is speaking if you are preoccupied with your appearance or with impressing the other, or are trying to decide what you are going to say when the other stops talking, or are debating about whether what is being said is true or relevant or agreeable. Such matters have their place, but only after listening to the word as the word is being uttered. Listening is a primitive art of love in which a person gives himself to another's word, making himself accessible and vulnerable to that word.
Now, can we listen to our partner just like this book? Still background conversation, still the chatter in my head. Notice name and let go of the chatter in my head and listen. So can we do that, please? Now listen like you deeply care. How do you feel when you listen deeply and as if you care? Light and connected? Mo, what about your take? How did you feel?
I felt very, to be honest, I felt very satisfied with the table that I was having.
Self-worth and proud. Okay, proud as in pride in oneself. Got it? How did you feel? How did you feel? Motivated. Okay, thank you. Value. Value. Even you can value it. Accepted. Acknowledge. Included. Any other? No. Oh, sorry. Supported. So notice when we listen deeply to the other person, this is how we feel. So it's my choice whether I want to listen deeply to the other person or am I going to let background conversations drive me. I'd like to leave you with this. I'd like to leave you with this quote. These automatic thoughts that are background conversations, these automatic inherited background conversations, when unexamined, allows us to resign ourselves.
Acutely train to implement to the speaker, please don't talk among each other. No, 5 minute break. You want to open it?
Let me finish this slide and then you take a 5 minute.
Don't.
Yeah.
Let us finish the statement and she will give 5 minute break. 3 minute break.
Yeah. So I'd like to end this part with this statement. These unexamined inherited background conversations, these automatic inherited background conversations, when unexamined, allows us to resign ourselves to, that's just the way it is, declaring ourselves helpless to change the situation. When you and I have agency and power in inner capacities, we can use it and let's not ever forget. So please take your break and come back. I'm going to look at how do I design my project. Okay? So remember I told you leadership is about knowing who I am, designing differently. So you may recall that I said leadership is about knowing who I am, designing differently. As teachers, you and I have an important role to play with regard to leading both ourselves and our students. Okay? So, how do I design for change that is sustainable? Sustainable means it continues to last long after you and I have gone. It is equitable for everyone according to their need. So how do I design my program, my activity, so that I generate a result as well as the results are sustainable and equitable? So this is the Albert Einstein quote that I was referring to. The world we have made as a result of the level of thinking we have done thus far creates problems that we cannot solve at the same level at which we have created them. We shall require a substantially new manner of thinking if humankind is to survive. Albert Einstein. So let me give you examples so that you understand this better. Okay? So we typically, I talk about myself. I typically tend to design what are known as partial responses. Not that they're wrong, they're just partial. Okay? Let us say that I have a child, not let us say, I'll give you an actual example in my class. So we had a student with low vision in my class, and this student had said, send me I'm not the slide set kind of a person because I feel that restricts me. So what I would do is, but then teaching 4 hours continuously was also exhausting. So I would suddenly decide, our students would demand and say, why don't you show us slides and we'll look at it. So one day, so I tended to use slide sets impromptu. So there were times I shared the slide sets with her in advance. There are times I did not share with her. So sharing the slide sets according whenever I remember was a response. Now every time I forget because I find slide sets very limiting. Okay. So I said, okay, let me look at, let me do what, so the systems change that I wanted to do was how can I take care of my own needs, which is the fatigue that sets in, so that, and the pressure to remember all the concepts, as well as do the teaching job effectively. Because for 4 hours, there's only so much that I can cram in my head. Okay? So then I did both hands. But because I cared about full potential of students, I would also then give a lot more examples. So the class would go well. However, while the class went well, did it suit the need of this one student who has a low vision intent? That's where the problem arose. So when I realized that I had made mistakes like this, I said I need to do something differently so that I'm able to include everybody. So in class, when once she put her head down and I noticed that I did something wrong, I quickly went, because I had to change the font of the slides to suit her requirement. So I quickly went and I made the changes and I apologized in front of the class and said, sorry, I did not care about you. I was not inclusive. Now I'll put in place practices to be inclusive. So I said it requires me to prepare in advance, not to do sudden changes, to stick to the plans that I have, either use a slide set or don't. Okay? So to design a full spectrum response. Where was that? So to design a full spectrum response where I sourced full potential for myself and the student. I looked at unworkable practices of being whimsical in my teaching, excluding somebody, and generating a result where the student also uses the opportunity to learn fully. So this is the full spectrum response that I did. Alright? Now I also do sessions on self-care. So what is a partial response with regard to self-care? Okay? So the technical solution with regard to self-care is I eat well, I sleep well, I exercise. Okay? I do not address this diminishing practices and gender biases to foster dignity, peace at home and workplace, to move from lack of support to growth and agency to a supportive home environment and a workplace that fosters growth and agency, from dominating or diminishing power hierarchy and workplace to fostering self-esteem and full potential in workplace and in family. I didn't pay attention to that. I was excluding. Then, even if I talk about fairness, dignity, acceptance and self-awareness and compassion, it is not simultaneously in time. This is like piecemeal responses that do not generate a full spectrum response. A full spectrum response that sources universal values, that shifts unworkable systems and cultural norms, and that generates results, all of this simultaneously in time. So what do I do for that in self-care? I source fairness, dignity and my universal values. I put in place strategies to shift biases and diminishing practices based on gender, class, caste, etc. to foster peace and care and peace at home and in workplace. at how I can bring in place, how I can create an enabling and supportive environment for growth and agency at the workplace and at home, and how can I foster self-esteem and potential of every team member or family member. And I put in place practices, whether it is for myself or whether it is to offer and serve others in a manner that is full spectrum. So when I did this with the student, what it meant was I sourced universal values of inclusion, full potential. I shifted practices of planning, the competence of planning ahead of time and sticking to my plans and not, planning on the fly and generating a result where not just one student but all students are included. Which meant I used slide sets. I didn't change in my own mindset to use slide sets to all my presentations because it helps students who are not able to comprehend English or not able to pay that kind of attention at all times. So, this answer lies within. Okay? The future is not some place we are creating, we are going to, but the one that we are creating. The paths to it are not found, but made. And the activity of making them changes both the maker and the destination. So you and I have a choice to create design our own projects differently so that we include everybody and leave nobody out. So I intended that we actually do a session, a practical session, but due to paucity of time and lack of resources, we will not do that. And therefore I will end my presentation here. I'm happy to answer questions if you might have any. There are no questions. I'll just quickly give you, these are workshops that are conducted annually. So if you're interested, please feel free to contact us and we will share with you the coordinates of the workshop. Thank you.
Any question? Or it may take the time to understand and how to apply within them. Yes, that's true. But this is the learning that there are different ways for self-awareness. Maybe you can contact her later, she conduct a workshop on RTM and you can do. Don't worry, woman, don't worry. 2 minutes. Don't worry, yeah, she will help you. So, now I think it is the right time for all of you to question your thing. And it is very difficult to how to challenge them, how to act in a different way. It's very difficult. And whatever she shared is not enough, but because of the time limit, we decided to have a 1.5 hour chat to introduce to all of you and make you aware that there are RTM exercises to make you aware and to practice. So all of you are welcome to contact her for further workshop. Once again, thank Professor Shri Latachua for your session. And I know that it takes time, but it is a food for thought for all of them. And I am sure they will come for further. You can contact or we can have further. Okay? 1 minute. Madhura, please, one moment to Professor Shri Latachua. Once again, hand. Okay. Now I think all of you got more than 5-minute break. What is it? If you are tired, what about us? It's not very easy job for me also to be active for 10-15 hours non-stop. are young, fine, but it is the right time to learn about the thing. Okay? Now, are you ready for the next session? And we have a lunch at 1 o'clock? Here. Not another room. Thank God. Okay.
All very grateful that I'm present over here with all of you. It's definitely an opportunity for me, and also opportunity for the partnership which is reflected over here. And if Mr. Satish Kapoor is in the room, I would really like to especially thank him for creating this opportunity for all of us to be meeting at this place. Many of you I know maybe from before, but many of you are meeting for the first time. And this itself, for me, is an opportunity. And so you can see who all are our partners, and there is UNESCO also over here. Now, why I am saying UNESCO? Because when I came yesterday, and I'll tell someone that I'm from UNESCO, many students I felt did not know what UNESCO is. To the extent, some also asked me, is this an NGO? Where is it? So, but we are used to it and it happens. No problems. So one, I'll just at least tell you what UNESCO stands for. It stands for it's one of the UN agencies, and its mandate is on education, science, communication, social and human sciences, and also culture. Many of you may know UNESCO in the context of two, either education or culture. So this is very important for you all to know. And then there are other UN agencies also. Now, of course, I'm supposed to talk about UNESCO and about what I want to talk about over here. Yes, inclusion is important and we are talking about inclusion. But for me, inclusive education means that hashtag all means all. We need to. So many years have passed and we have moved from special education to inclusive education. But still, the concept of inclusion and inclusivity is still not well understood. Because we are not creating that movement of what we mean, all means all. I think from here onwards, you all should become the champions of leading all means all. If not now, it can never happen. Now, definitely, what is it that is making us get into this all means all? So, of course, as I mentioned Mr. Satish Kapoor's name, it is because of him that we are here, and you all know him very well. But definitely is the third year of the Purple Fest, but it is definitely a landmark event. And I think what they are doing in this context is all means all. This is actually a fest, but also an endorsement of all the ambassadors who represent here from different 21 types of abilities, from different sectors, and lived experiences, success stories, all are around us in this ecosystem where we are sitting today. And these are the lived realities which we are seeing today. And I think nothing like the participatory model which has been generated in Goa but in no other state of India. I think one needs a lot of commitment to be creating something like this kind of a lived experience. Now, as I said, that we have several agendas which are happening over here. We are looking at several policies. We are looking at different teaching learning tools, at least in this particular section. We are also seeing the technology aspects and accessibility aspects which are present here. And also, I would try to see, what I would like to recognize in my conversation here is, I saw a lot of art and culture also over here. And this is definitely a blueprint for other regions and states which are aiming for similar inclusion. I think so. One of the outcome document recommendations should be that not just Goa, it should be other states also. Definitely this partnership which strongly is built between the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, UN India, and for this particular session I would say the Brotherhood Foundation definitely demonstrates intentions of furthering NEP 2020 and UNESCO objectives in the real world settings. So here I have a video which I hope will open, and this video is also talking about what I want to say, that all means all. Let us hope that this video will open. If someone can help me, nothing like it. If somebody can help me with this.
Children who
accomplished. School design may favor some students over others, as do many laws and policies. Teachers are often ill-equipped to cater for students' diverse needs. Children may not recognize the way they are portrayed in textbooks. Some may not see themselves there at all. They receive the message that they do not belong. Testing sometimes follows a narrow vision of education, and consequently, some students leave education earlier than they should. These are complex problems to solve, but a belief in the right to education is a belief in inclusion. Children have different learning speeds and needs. They need curricula that are flexible, creative, and relevant. How we prepare teachers matters. They must be given the tools and training to achieve our vision for reform. The resources we know can help the marginalized, educators, support staff, and equipment should be shared so that everyone can benefit. Better data on those left behind will help us reach them. Disadvantages often accumulate. We can't address inclusion one group at a time. Redressing these disadvantages requires funds. These must be equitable and target individual-specific needs. We must work together on these tasks across government ministries, from central to local authorities, with civil society supporting governments, and schools opening doors to the community. Inclusion in education requires a change in mindset in society, so that education for all means education for everyone without exception. Achieving this is everybody's business, including yours.
I'm sorry for this disruption, but I really wanted to share this nice film which is linked to a global education monitoring report. And this was something which was kind of created for this particular purpose and for global purpose. And I hope that you enjoyed this small feature. And what it basically reflects is that UNESCO stands for inclusivity. I don't want to get into details of which most of you may know, the Salamanca framework and how we moved from special needs education to inclusive education to integrated education, and this has been going on. And what we are trying to do is basically that every time, based on the needs, we change our visions, missions, and definitions. So what is it that UNESCO's vision, mission, and statements are all about? What we are saying is that UNESCO views inclusion, which is like a process of addressing and responding to the diversity which is existing and to the needs of learners based on the conditions or the ecosystems which are there within and from education. Our approach is also that we look at it in a very comprehensive manner, and we cover through various mediums like curriculum, teacher preparation, classroom practices, assessments, learning environment, and school leadership, which many of you have spoken even yesterday and today. And we also develop some resource materials on and off, and these are all available if you go to our website www.unesco.org. You will find several frameworks, case studies which are useful and can be are in an open resource, so you can maybe use it when and where you want. Teacher inclusive education is something which we consider as pivotal, and we have a lot of resources on inclusivity available for planners, facilitators, innovators, and there are various guidelines which emphasize on teacher education, both for pre-service and in-service. And I saw there was a long list which was prepared that what is it that we should do first. So one, many of you said we have to begin with ourselves, but then there are other factors also. The political commitment is equally important. Why we have this Purple Fest is because there is a political commitment. So I think many times when we are talking of resources, funding, and nothing can happen without funding and resources, especially for this sector. And therefore, political commitments are equally very important. And then what is also important is the continuous research and evidence. R&D is something very important which we should look at. Because suppose we want to have assessments, how do we do that until and unless we have created real-time evidences, and what works and what does not work is through these evidences. So, and how do you learn from each other is through partnerships and collaboration, and therefore it is very important that we should look at this through the teacher education programs. Of course, many of you have already spoken about understanding, adapting, flexible lesson learns, and the collaborative work and alternative assessments and things like that you're doing. But to my personal observation, I feel that assessment is a very weak link here. And we really need to work on assessment as a very, a project which we should do. And as I mentioned yesterday, we do not have evidences recorded and documented like case studies or putting together the assessment documentation. And once we do that, then for parents, communities and different stakeholders, it will be easy for them to collect these, maybe some case studies which are working, and what is not working should also be documented. That don't try this because this will not work. And here, collaboration is very important because it cannot be without this strength, what is called collaboration. Definitely teachers are a crucial and critical role they play, and why they play is because we need to have their competencies. Now when we look at pre-service, from where this build-up or the foundation starts, it is still very weak. And it is not that we have strengthened this sector as per the need of our, it needs to be state-specific, region-specific, and it is not happening. It is also that we need continuous competencies and professional well-being. And that is also not happening for the teachers. The group which was sitting with me yesterday, they felt that as special teachers or educators, they're looked down upon in the school system. The very fact that the wages are low compared to regular teachers itself is something that they are not getting. They cannot have a good well-being. And that is what should also be, spoken out, when we are saying all means all. We need to have some amount of implementation and strong implementation of evidence-based policies and programs, but a leadership is required. And that is what is definitely missing in this community. You have teacher unions, but what about the teacher unions of special educators or professionals who are working in this, or those principals and leaders who are actually implementing this kind of classroom? In Delhi, I heard only Tamanna school, maybe a few schools, but we don't really see that kind of leadership which is focused, which is like a strong cord and taking this issue further. And I think that has to be really done. Now, time and again, UNESCO not only prepares resources and guidebooks and frameworks, we also celebrate these like which I found was on the World Summit for Teachers, which happened in Chile. And this was very recent in this year. It did talk about something which is very alarming. And what is alarming is that there is and there is going to be a shortage of qualified teachers. Now this is going to be a major problem for the world, and especially in the context of inclusive education. Why? In this meeting, there was also high-level multi-stakeholder dialogues, and there were teacher voices in social dialogue and policy making which were heard. There was this whole session on future of teaching profession, and also how global collaborations and solidarity could be the way forward. But what was most alarming, what we saw was that, which I will talk about later, is in the context of this thing, was that there was teachers' critical role in inclusion which was identified. There was competencies and approaches which were mentioned. There was well-being and leadership and everything, as I mentioned earlier, was mentioned. But the aim of this was basically to ensure that teacher education, inclusive education, should be within the paradigm of human rights. And that it should be that education should still be considered as a public good. But if you see, many governments are not considering education as a public good, and they're encouraging private sector. Even today, in the context of inclusive education and persons with disabilities, we see that there is a lot of private sector coming out, and the government schools are either shutting down or do not have inclusive environment and the kind of support and outreach which is required. And this is very alarming. It is that we say, when we say public good, that means it's the duty of the government, and this is a commitment to SDG 4 also, and by all the member states, but then it is still not happening. What we are seeing alarming is that teachers and that almost 44 million of primary and secondary education teachers and an additional number of at least 6 million pre-primary education teachers are required but will not be there to cater to this particular sector and to the needs of the inclusive classrooms. So there is going to be a crisis, and I think what we need to do is that we prepare ourselves well as we did a post-COVID-19 response. I think that is very important. So these kind of summits or events which are happening today are very important. And herein, I think in this particular event, we need to mention that there was a several commitment which was, you all can research on it and find out more on this. And there was also another Fortaleza declaration which is very important. I think for at least the teachers group to please read about it and see what is this declaration all about. I can share my this reading points also with all of you, so that it should be something which you can use me. Now, all our strategies in the context of India is that we should align it to NEP 2020, Samankisha and things like that, because whatever happens globally should also be connected locally. Now, when we look at the policy document, yes, it advocates what inclusion, multilingualism, technology, early childhood, and also socially economic disadvantaged groups. Yes, our NEP 2020 also speaks about teacher training reforms, curriculum transformation, you name it. collaboration, partnerships, NGOs, private sector, you name it, just everything we find in our policy documents. It was also in 1986 and it is also now. But when we look at the reality, there is a mismatch or a huge gap which exists. And this is what we need to really advocate for, because the challenges still exist. And these challenges are not met at all. Do we have adequate infrastructure? When we say infrastructure, it's only limited to ramps. We don't even have accessible toilets. I did a study on girls with disabilities and menstruation, and when I did just a review and captured in many states, in 7 states, just the toilets, many had no latches. Many were located in some very far-flung area of the school which was unsafe. There were no dustbins. There was nothing that, a girl with disability could maybe reach out. There were no napkins there. There was just nothing. And when you talk to the principal, they would say, there is a toilet, but it's a separate girls' toilet, not an inclusive girls' school or a toilet. So wash, which is such an important element, but that was missing. So even the principal, teachers and all, we said, have you had any specific training on accessibility? Have you invited some groups who can look and make you accountable in the context of disability and accessibility? There was nothing these schools had done. So why it is that we leave this to others? They will say, this is not my job, this is others' job. Maybe DIE, maybe CRCs, or maybe some other district. So what is required is that the community comes together, does some kind of a mapping, makes a report, a dossier, and then gives it to the education department. That is what, if we meet all is all, and we start to come up together, as a commitment, then only some change can happen. We have to be change makers. We are not just learners and just bringing learning capacity. We have to work on several fronts, and that is why we have VECs, village education communities, or education communities, parent teachers meeting, and with all that, I think this does not feature at all. I know many of you would say that yes, we do, but it doesn't happen. But I think nobody should give up. Of course, there's underfunding, as I mentioned above, acts are not implemented, and social stigmas, curriculum adaptations, and meaningful integration of assistive technologies is an ongoing struggle. This is the time when we are talking of AI and ICTs, and outside I saw many good examples, but this should feed into the new textbooks. If we look at the textbooks, these like Padma series, which was designed by NCRT, I don't see that it is in every state being implemented. There is nothing happening by using sign language and things like that. So there are still a lot of gaps. And we know the benefits of inclusive classroom. I do not need to say much, but one thing which is very important, which inclusive classroom brings in, which is something which is kind of in shreds right now, and that is social cohesion. That is self-esteem. It's in shreds, literally, because parents don't have self-esteem when they are bringing their children. Children themselves don't have. Teachers who are special educators lack the self-esteem. So that is why we need to rebuild that. Apart from the academic achievement and of course the sense of belonging, which is very important. And here of course the continuous professional growth of teachers is important. What we need is more deeper creativity by collecting evidences and opportunities for collaboration. what we should do is to resolve the real problems, not what is cursory work. You know, we actually touch upon things. We don't go deep into, and there are very few schools, and that's the problem. We don't have a database which says, okay, this is one school which is vouching that we are completely inclusive. Now for that, you should have a form to tick that, okay, we are doing this, we are doing this, we are doing this, we have achieved this, we have achieved this. Does not exist. So there is no assessment of school system only. Leave aside different assessments which are required for the 21 abilities, what we call it. And of course, empathy is something we are talking, there is one program which we are looking at is called social behavior change. But do we do our assessments on real social behavior change? Right now, just last week, I submitted a proposal for UNSRM. What is it? It is called Road Safety project, and lot of gig workers, lot of persons with challenges are using two-wheelers and they are going either for work or for education, and many times either they or the gig workers who are very normal, but because of SDL issues, you know, many times they land up in injuries and rash driving, and also it leads to disabilities. And this is what the project we are designing is, basically creating an app for social behavior change. I think in this also we need that we create a whole cadre of social behavior change of teachers, principals, parents, communities, special educators and all, and we need to use this tool, and we are developing this tool, and if you want sometime I can share this tool with all of you, because you can implement this tool to see whether social behavior change is happening. If you want to be a real change maker, start with checklist against that, not by just coming in for these meetings and listening to us or listening to others. We have to be ourselves change makers, which is not happening. And with this, I would say I'd like to close and thank all of you for this opportunity. And I hope I was within the time frame. I saw the fingers and I was a little bit, I hope I will overstep. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Uma madam. I know that you are telling me that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, we have no choice. Because others are also waiting. And I prefer that all are equal. What are the time each one I try for. Even I organize it for them. So if I hurt you, then I will join. At that time, apologize. But we have to understand so that everybody will be till last moment. Trust that we follow the time sheet. So any question to Uma madam? Because many of you may not know what is the role of the UNESCO and in inclusive education. Any question would you like to ask or more clarification? She explained so well. She also mentioned about the national education policy also. And I am sure many of you may not be aware of that. So any question?
Can I request all of you that after we finish this, at least raise your hands and say all means all. Okay? We'll do that. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so this, whatever policy to practice specifically about the UNESCO, and you highlighted the role of teacher, educator and everyone. Yeah, sorry, I'm audible. Yeah, so do you think that, I'm talking from Mumbai's perspective, inclusive schools. I come from an inclusive school. Not everyone knows the role and responsibilities of UNESCO. As an inclusive educator, what is my role now to go back and how do I introduce this to my school? Is there a way, is there a tool which I can, share whatever good practices you all have been doing in my school?
Very good question, Pat.
Yes.
I think I started with something that what UNESCO stands for, you know that. So we work through our 5 mandates. So for example, through education, we work on normatives and frameworks. What I mean is the policy enhancement work, for which we have, like for example, we have the summit and we will have an outcome document with certain recommendations which member states, 197 member countries, will endorse. So that means when they endorse, they will take it forward at the country level. We also prepare and develop global tools through researches and evidences, and these tools can be adapted at the country level. We have, for example, teacher resource pack. We have lot of documents which are listed. If you go on to www.unesco.org and go to the education section of that and then go to inclusive education, you will find all policies and tools, videos, case studies, reports, all at one place. You will also find the events which we organize. Those are also there, and there are a lot of events material which are social media tools which you can use, maybe some postcards, maybe some posters, whatever. We have it every year, these are updated. We also have regional networks like ENET, Inclusive Education Networks, Early Childhood Education Networks, and these are also networks where researches and evidences come from different regions. So there's an Asia Pacific network, for example, which will have researchers, tools and all from Asia region or South Asia region, which can be very useful for you. For example, in culture, how do we go about that? We are making places accessible like museums, like all cultural heritage sites are being done. Most recent what we did was that all the puja pandals for Durga Puja, which is listed now, were made accessible. How? We created a standard operating procedure, SOP, which was implemented at all the pandals, and one which was also inaugurated by the Prime Minister of India, and Shri Narendra Modi ji actually appreciated that for the first time something like this we have seen. We have on record, if you go on our UNESCO New Delhi website, you will see videos where parents and persons with hearing impairment and visual impairment could read all about it, could actually participate for the first time, for puja, which had never happened for them. They were always celebrating in the house but not participating. So, like AI, SHS, Social and Human Sciences, works for AI and ethics. So we are looking at how AI tools should be ethical in the context of persons with disability, so that there is some kind of a quorum and cohesion maintained. So all and we use community radios through the CI sector for this kind of work. And we also have many communities and partners like the Brotherhood Foundation over here. Mr. Satish Kapoor is a very important and long-term partner, and we have partnered for a long time with him. And this is one of the realities which is happening today because of this support. Thank you.
Any more question? One more last question.
So if not, can we raise our hands and have a selfie here? Like, something.
Sure. Sure, why not? They can come and they have taken the photo. You can come and take a photo. Come and take the photo. They want
All
all of them are there.
Can you just make it like a